Without the right tools, planning a golf fundraiser can be a hassle. But it doesn't have to be. What if planning a fun and successful golf fundraiser wasn't a giant headache? What if you could save 40 hours worth of planning time? What if you had a coach that could help you along the way? And what if you could boost your fundraising revenue by $4,000 or more? With GolfStatus, you can. GolfStatus is an event management platform built just for golf events. It starts with an event website where you can promote your organization and event, take registrations, sell sponsorships, provide sponsor exposure, even collect donations. GolfStatus's pricing structure means we only win if you win. Fees can be passed on to golfers and sponsors who choose to cover them nearly 90% of the time, so you keep more dollars for your cause. Registration information drops into the platform's backend where you can track teams, sponsors, hole assignments, and payments all in one place. So no processing paper forms and checks, sending receipts, no managing multiple platforms or spreadsheets. You'll save a ton of time. Plus, GolfStatus's exclusive add-ons and sponsorships can help raise thousands more dollars for your cause. Our in-house client success team has PGA professionals on staff and is here 7 days a week to answer questions and help make your event as successful as possible. GolfStatus helps your golf event do more. More donors, more engagement, more fun, more fundraising. Get qualified to utilize the GolfStatus platform at no upfront cost through our Golf for Good program. Visit golfstatus.org to get started.
Everybody, and welcome to the Future of Fundraising Trends and Insights for 2026 webinar. We are so excited to have you all here with us today. First off, my name is Peyton Kroll, and I'm the Digital Media Manager here at GolfStatus, and I will be moderating today's session. Before we go ahead and get started, we would love it if you could drop in the chat where you're joining us from and what organization you're representing today. I know some people were already ahead of me. All right, Red Deer, Alberta, DC, Ontario, Indianapolis, Indiana, Dallas, Texas, New Hampshire, Victoria, British Columbia, Racine, Wisconsin, another one, Wisconsin, Green Bay, go Pack Go, Alberta, another Red Deer, the Michael Ray Lee Foundation, Kids' Chance in Pennsylvania, the Rick G Foundation, pardon if I'm not saying that correct, the Washburn Center for Children, Lincoln, Nebraska, Lincoln Christian School, go Big Red. That's where we're based as well, for those of you that don't know. Pure Michigan, Denver, Colorado, the International Siblings Society, Summer of Memories Foundation. Well, thank you all for being here today. We have a great panel today, and we will introduce our panelists in just a minute here. But first, we have a few housekeeping items. Today's session will be recorded, and you can expect to see the recording in your email inbox later this afternoon. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat today, anytime throughout today's session, and we will get to those. There will be some time for questions at the end, and if we don't happen to get to your question, be sure to drop your question and your email address in the webinar evaluation, and a real person from our team will reach out to you to get your question answered. If you missed it before, the chat function is located on the bottom middle of the screen. It's the little message icon. All right. This is also where polls will appear for you all to answer throughout today's session. We also have Jen from GolfStatus who might pop into the chat today to answer some of your questions. And just a reminder, if you are a CFRE, today's webinar is applicable for 1 point in category 1B for certification or recertification. All right, moving on to our panel introductions. Today we have Tareq Alani. He is co-founder at ChorusAI. Tareq is a product leader who operates at the intersection of media, technology, and civic engagement. He is a co-founder at ChorusAI, where he leads product and growth. Previously, he co-founded and served as the Chief Product Officer of Push Black, the largest nonprofit media company for Black Americans. While at Push Black, Tareq spearheaded reader revenue efforts, generating more than $5 million between 2017 and 2022. He also developed a groundbreaking voter engagement program which in 2020 reached 70% of Black Americans online and generated 230 million peer-to-peer voting peer-to-peer voting messages, making it the largest digital voter turnout program of its kind. Prior to Push Black, Tareq helped win competitive issue and electoral campaigns at the National Domestic Workers Alliance, Working America AFL-CIO, and Fund for the Public Interest. We're so glad to have you here with us, Tareq. All right, next we have Ben Parker. Ben has been in the event, entertainment, and nonprofit industry for 40 plus years. His experience in golf tournament fundraisers is unique, including made-for-television events, exclusive private charity events, creating a national fundraising campaign with the Jack and Barbara Nicholas, and managing a title sponsorship event on the PGA Tour. My mouth is not moving as fast as my brain today. He came to Dormie Network Foundation in 2022, where he helps nonprofit partners raise more money for their missions. He has long had a passion for philanthropy and is grateful to be able to share his expertise and outside the box thinking with donors, executives, nonprofits, and event managers. When Ben's not assisting nonprofit partners, he enjoys golf, gardening, racing cars, and spending time with his wife, Amy, and 4 daughters. Thanks for being here, Ben.
Glad to be here.
All right, and last but not least, we have Samantha Swaim, the founder and strategic director at Swaim Strategies. Samantha has more than 20 years of event planning and fundraising expertise. She founded Swaim Strategies, a fundraising event consultancy, in 2004, working internationally with nonprofit organizations to produce impactful events that move missions forward. Samantha is the co-author of Planning a Successful Major Donor Event, the founder of the annual Elevate Fundraising Event Conference, scheduled for March 3rd through 4th, 2026, in case y'all didn't know, and the co-host of the Fundraising Elevator podcast. She is on a mission to support nonprofits in elevating their impact through events. Thanks so much for being here today, Sam.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that is it for me for now. I am going to turn it over to the moderator for today's session, Logan Foote, Sales and Education Director at GolfStatus.
All right. Thank you, Peyton, and thank you everyone for joining us for today's session. Before we get into our panel discussion, I'm first going to kind of go over everything we're going to cover in today's webinar, and then I'll hand it over to each of our panelists to give a kind of brief introduction of themselves. So first, we're going to do that panelist introduction, give everyone a couple minutes to properly introduce themselves, talk a little bit about who they are and what they're going to be discussing on today's panel. We'll get into our panel discussion. We'll briefly touch on next steps, how you can get started with GolfStatus, and then we'll also end with an audience Q&A. So be sure to drop your questions in the chat if you think of any. We usually like to hit a few live questions if there are any when we get to the audience Q&A. But before we get into our panelist introductions, we're first going to start with a poll question. Have you ever planned a golf tournament? Simple yes, no, or are you currently in the midst of planning your very first one? Looks like the vast majority of you have planned a golf tournament. Well, over 70% of you have planned a golf tournament. So whether you have or have not, hopefully you gained some valuable insights on today's topic and all of the through all the discussion topics we'll hit in today's session. So before we jump into our panel discussion, I'm first going to allow our panelists to talk a little bit more about their background with nonprofits and talk about the products and services that they offer. So we'll first start with Tareq Alani. Tareq, take it away.
Hey, y'all. Peyton, thank you for the intro. I'll keep it short. You covered most of it, but my name is Tareq Alani. Thank you for having me. I have 15 years plus working in the nonprofit space, and I've done just about every job you can think of. I got my start knocking on doors for money, working on a bunch of different issue areas. I've done payroll for hundreds of nonprofit staff, and then I've also ran large digital marketing programs and fundraising programs as well. And that's really why I started Chorus with my 2 co-founders a couple of years ago. So at Chorus, our goal is really to help you increase your revenue by 10 to 20%. And we do that by helping you figure out who is, why they're listening to your messages or why they're not listening to your messages, and how you can optimize your next send or your next broadcast to increase the likelihood of donating, taking action, or volunteering. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Tareq. Next, we have Ben Parker joining us from Dormie Network Foundation. Ben, go ahead.
Nice to be here, and nice to be with you all. I'm excited for our discussion. My background is primarily in broadcast. I started out in theater and got into film, television, and radio, which allowed me the opportunity to do a special fundraising event in Hawaii that we were shooting for television. So I kind of came into nonprofit through the production side, and I was asked to join Children's Miracle Network in 2007, which led to lots of opportunities. It's a very large organization, 170 children's hospitals, a lot of media partners, 90 corporate sponsors. So as you can imagine, once you're a nonprofit, you start to wear all the different hats and you do the different jobs. So I couldn't just be in my little corner and do what I wanted to do. I had to learn all the different disciplines and learned a lot over those 17 years. And it culminated with a campaign with Jack and Barbara Nicholas that I'm really proud of called Play Yellow. We raised over $100 million in 5 years during COVID. So some of that was brand recognition with the Nicklases, but it was also their passion to raise money through the golf community. So I've seen the spectrum of kind of the low end of like mom and pop golf tournaments all the way up to really splashy, heavily promoted events. I wanted to join Dormie Network because the foundation has a unique model. We donate everything in kind to our nonprofit partners. It was the first time that I'd ever been around a nonprofit that was a for-profit company that was not trying to monetize the nonprofit partnership in some capacity, whether it was sharing donor data or you do the heavy lifting and then we'll collect the check, or some sort of awkward split or something that would sour the partnership. So I love what we've done in just a few short years. I think we're going to hit $25 million raised for our nonprofit partners this year. 100% of that fundraising stays with the nonprofit. So it's a nice win-win for everybody involved, and just excited to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Samantha.
Well, I came into the event world through a similar channel, Ben. I also have a theater background and a TV background, and learned all about fundraising events when I worked at the Grammy Awards. We partnered with a lot of great causes, and really fell into the space of the celebration, the gathering, the storytelling, how we move donors into giving. And now have been in the world of fundraising event production for almost now 28 years, I think it is. And we have two teams. The fundraising event company sits side by side with all of our nonprofits and helps plan, and they are in the work with all of the organizations. And then the Swaim Strategies team are coaches, consultants, teachers. So we are there to bring you really story-based, evidence-based, best practices to help you understand your why and help you make an impact. So that when you make that ask and you have that giving moment, you can really maximize it. We teach a lot, especially at our conference that is coming up, the Elevate Conference, March 3rd and 4th. We hope folks will join us.
Awesome. Thank you all for those introductions. We'll hop into our panel discussion now. And just as a reminder, we will have time for audience questions at the end. So if you do have any questions you'd like to ask any of our panelists today, please drop those in the chat. But to kick things off, I want to really set the stage for 2026. What major trends do you see shaping the nonprofit fundraising landscape as we move into 2026? Sam, I'll have you kick us off.
I think we're going to see a lot more events. I think the importance of gathering is coming to light as a key sort of indicator of need. There seems to be sort of a pattern repeating of what we saw right at the time when the pandemic hit. And we saw this sort of unknown where a lot of organizations were pausing and waiting to see what was going to happen. We're now in that same phase as we see new tax rollouts. We see loss of federal grant funding, a lot of wait and see, but the organizations that are retaining donors, that are continuing to see donors engage and support and step in to fill those gaps, are organizations that are bringing donors in, inviting donors to participate. So I think we're going to see more events. I think we're going to see curated events that are segmented for specific audiences. And I think we're going to see short story-based programs that really maximize people's time but help them understand the work of the organization.
Yeah, for sure. Tareq, what do you have to add to that? What major trends do you see shaping the nonprofit fundraising landscape as we move into the next year?
Yeah, totally. So similar to what Sam mentioned, I think this last year we saw a lot of uncertainty around institutional funding, right? Whether those are major foundations or government grants. So I think nonprofits are going to be investing a lot more money into their marketing spend. And that obviously splits into digital and in person. So I think on the digital side, there are a lot of advances in AI, making this a lot easier, but also makes the field more crowded. So the bar for what's good digital communications, marketing, and fundraising is going to be raised, and personalization is going to be critical to make sure you're actually reaching your audience with the messages that are resonant with them. A one-size-fits-all approach, which might have worked 5 years ago, isn't going to work today. And then related to that, I think because of AI and I've been binging these AI cat videos on Instagram sometimes. I don't know if you've seen those, but I think there, as Sam mentioned, there's also going to be a shift in a way to opportunity to zag and really double down on in-person events, which are going to be like real human authenticity, etc. So I think those are kind of like the two major trends I'm seeing or predicting.
Absolutely. Ben, what do you have to add to finish us off on that last question?
Yeah, I'm seeing an adoption of a best practice that's more on the high end of events, where you do a pre-event fundraiser, so like a little mini gala right before your golf tournament. So that idea of shifting a lot of the messaging and larger fundraising items like high-end auction items, just storytelling, getting people, trying to like get that messaging, because one of the frustrating parts about a golf tournament is sometimes people show up quickly, they hurry up and register, they race through the event, and then, sorry everybody, I got a jet. So you're missing out on those opportunities and those touch points during the golf. So we're seeing a lot more of that night before mini event to get the messaging and fundraising to where they want it to be for their time and effort being put into a golf event.
Absolutely. So building on that big picture view, how do you see donor expectations evolving, and what should nonprofits be doing to meet them? Tareq, I'll have you lead us off on this next question.
I think this is at a high level, I think one of the areas, and I see this shift happening, but I think we're as a sector too slow on, we move faster, is oftentimes, right, we have this theory of change, we have this program, we have this mission, and it's a very top-down approach, and we have to figure out how do we take that mission and that theory of change, but also map it to what our people, our constituents that we're trying to serve care about, to make sure we're messaging and talking about ways that resonate. Kind of similar to what I was saying before, right? It can't just be, hey, here's what we think, and here's how it's done, and you should give us money or sign this petition. It needs to really be about, hey, here's our mission. How does it affect your life? Finding that common ground, and then creating, whether it's marketing, whether it's events, whether it's these one-on-one conversations, finding that middle ground. And that's what's going to, I think, really ultimately allow us to have more impact and then also raise more money.
Yeah, I love that approach. Sam, anything to add to that on how you see donor expectations evolving?
Yeah, I think donors are communicating differently, and I think that donors are expecting you to meet them where they're at. So starting to segment your audience, track and understand how they prefer communication. A lot of donors are texting now. So if they're texting you, you should be texting them back. And a lot of donors are, not interested in the mailed pieces anymore. Some are very interested in the mailed pieces. So I think being able to segment your audience is going to be a key element. I think being able to do A/B testing in your messaging is going to be important, so that you can test what resonates, to Tareq's point. And I think people ultimately want a sense of belonging. And so I think we need to be pulling our donors into our story, telling their story, asking them specifically why they give, what their investment is, what their connection is, and then using that information in our CRM tools so that we remember that that's their connection in their personal relationship. Reporting. I think we do the ask, thank you cycle a lot. Invite to the event, invite to the tournament, but we miss sometimes the reporting out of impact, what the difference is that they're making, how their dollars result in answers.
Yes, I love all those points. Ben, anything to add? How you see donor expectations evolving, and what should nonprofits be doing to meet them?
Well, speaking specifically from the donor golfer standpoint, I think they want to really efficiently run event. They don't want it to drag out. When the asks come, they are specific, to Sam's point, where it may be a text message after the event. It might be a soft second ask email. In a lot of cases with high net worth individuals, it's going to be a peer-to-peer ask that will probably pan out to be the most effective. So building an efficient event so they love your event, they keep their stack of invitations, and they see yours come across their desk and they're like, absolutely, I'm going back. So I think that parlays a little bit into the messaging, but also the efficiency of what GolfStatus is trying to do.
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot. How to kind of make your event stand out. And I think just having it be a very well-run professional event does a lot for it, for sure. So as we talk about specific fundraising strategies, golf tournaments continue to be among the most reliable fundraising events for nonprofits. Why do you think they remain so effective heading into 2026? Ben, I think this is a great one for you to lead us off on.
Well, any excuse to get out of the office is a good one. I think golf just covers a wide range of motives. Some people are there for the competitive side. Some people are there for prizes. Some people are there to network. Some of the individuals are using that opportunity for client development. They might be inviting people to come play with them to understand what they're interested in and show a little bit broader side than just, business focused discussions, show like a different side of themselves. It can be a litmus test as well, to see if you want to work with these people in the future, if you're inviting them out for a day of golf. But I just think, we got lucky with COVID. I mean, golf had a huge push during COVID because it was one of two things you could do. You could stay home or you could go golf. So it's nice to see the golf landscape growing dramatically. And it's not just your typical prototype golfer. We're seeing women, juniors, young girls golf has exploded. So I think in the future, if you still have this component as it's being used for fundraising, networking, having a great time outside, being in the community, sharing your message in different ways. And then obviously the way that golf kind of fans out, where you can kind of go deeper into the network of people that are involved. It's just it has a strong hold in fundraising. So I think it'll be around for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Sam, I'm going to go over to you. What do you think golf remains so effective when it comes to fundraising?
Well, I think a little bit to what Ben was just talking about, we had this explosion that occurred in COVID. And I think that a lot of business structure has not returned back to the old in-person, in-office 40, 60-hour weeks. And so because a lot of people are working from home, folks are seeking connection, folks are seeking community, and it's a way for businesses to be able to bring their people together, get out into the world, do something for good. But also younger generations are really investing right now in the brands that they support being aligned with causes they believe in. And so I think there is a giant call to action among corporate entities, both for employee retention and for customer retention, to be thinking about how do they show up, how do they support good causes, and what a win-win to be able to get your employees out on the golf course for a day together, team experience, in-person experience, connection, create a sense of belonging, and do something good that brand aligns. So I think it's a generational shift that we're seeing, but I also think it's just the dynamics right now where people are looking for connection in this sort of time that has been coined the connection recession of how do we get back to being in community together.
Yeah, I love the point about how remote work has really led to that. That's a really great thought. Tareq, over to you. Why do you think golf tournaments really have remained such an effective fundraising tool?
Totally. So I think I have like two layers to this answer. The first layer is just kind of what I was saying earlier, where I think in-person events are actually like becoming increasingly more critical when you look at allocation of resources for marketing and fundraising, because one is like, the digital playbooks have been established, which means those marketing channels are still critical, but they're not going to be as productive as they were 5 or 10 years ago, right? But then also too is like a lot, especially on social, the platforms have changed. They've actually gone much more from community to feed, right? Like much more like a newspaper almost, right? And so what events have the opportunity to do is actually build that sense of community and identity with the organization that digital can no longer do as well. And I think golf specifically is, Ben was already talking about this a little bit, but like, right, is, funny enough, if I'm the CEO of organization A, like, yes, it's very effective for me to ask somebody to give money, but what's way more effective is for that person's friend or family member to ask them, somebody who they identify in community with. That's going to have a much higher donation rate and a much higher involvement. So a golf event is like one of the perfect opportunities for that.
Yeah, one of the big things I love about golf is how you can get people who aren't familiar with your mission in front of you. So I love that point. Let's shift gears into internal operations. Many nonprofits are operating with leaner teams, short staff. So what strategies will help organizations really increase efficiency without sacrificing donor engagement? Sam, I'll have you lead us off on this one.
Well, I think we need to start to think about things like automation and AI and how we're using them. I think the nonprofit community has been a little slow to adopt there. And I think that it is you are going to be outpaced as an organization if you are not adopting AI and automation. I also think that there are, in the world of AI and automation, there are a lot of great tools that are coming to the forefront to be able to create efficiencies, to be able to create structure. But I think the first thing we have to do is understand what our process is. I think that we often skip process and then the gaps get created. And in the nonprofit space where we're often looking at how do we do more with less, we don't usually stop and give a lot of like deep thinking time to what is our process here? How are we recruiting supporters? How are we communicating our message? Those sort of big conversations need to be had with some intentionality also on a regular basis, carving out a retreat time for the team to be able to have big conversations, evaluate process and systems. And when you don't have the answers, engage experts. There's a lot of incredible experts out there with resources. And I think that sometimes a little money spent on an expert can get you much further than trying to over time move your team forward without a lot of coaching or support.
Absolutely. A lot of help out there for sure. Tareq, over to you. What strategies will help organizations increase efficiency without sacrificing donor engagement?
Totally. So I think, the biggest thing here, especially as, teams get smaller, is resource allocation and focus. So I think, I've experienced this myself where there's so many amazing channels to engage donors, to raise money, to reach people. There's different levels of the funnel, right? So like the marketing funnel of people who aren't even aware that this is a problem, people who are aware, people who know about your nonprofit, and the people who are actively involved in your nonprofit, right? And if you're a huge nonprofit, you can focus on a lot of that stuff. But if you're small or mid-sized, you have to understand and have a prioritization of which channel you should be focused on, or maybe two channels, right? And that's going to really depend on who your people are. And then the second piece is have like a area in that funnel that you, for that year or for that quarter, that you're laser focused on, and only focus on those things. Because the moment that happens is if you try to do too much stuff, then you do everything okay, and that's not good enough. It's better to do one thing just incredibly well and spend all your resources on that. And once that's working, you can automate it, and then you can move on to the next most important thing. So I think that's when I've not done that in my nonprofit experience, things have gone badly, and when we've had laser focus, things have gone very well.
Yeah, I love that point. Ben, over to you to finish up. What strategies will help organizations increase efficiency without sacrificing any donor engagement?
I mean, Tareq and Sam have done a nice job covering the bases. The adoption of digital tools is really where it's at in terms of if your staff numbers are coming down, or you don't have the same resources. I'm always shocked every time I meet a tournament organizer who's got a binder. You know, I mean, you do need a binder. I mean, it feels good to have a binder. You got to have a binder. But in terms of communicating, building out your tournament plan, your timelines, meeting your objectives, communication, you know, that's what attracted me to GolfStatus in the first place before I joined Dormie Network, as I was looking for a digital tool that would help. It was during COVID, so it was when people couldn't gather, and GolfStatus was the only tool out there that allowed you to hold your tournament with individuals at different golf courses with a roll-up score at the end. And I was like, thank goodness, you know. And then it was a layer of service and some other things that really sold me on just the opportunity that was out there for all the children's hospitals to use this tool. But I think as the staff numbers get lower, or, you know, the seasoned person who's been running the golf tournament forever is trying to hand it off, because after 7 years, you get into that burnout phase. So they're trying to hand it off. And what does that look like? You know, because a handoff can be really sketchy as you're trying to keep all those relationships intact and all those asks intact. So I think an adoption of the tools is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good segue into our next question about technology. So tech is obviously a really big focus and a vital tool for nonprofits. So what role will technology play in fundraising success in 2026? And where should nonprofits prioritize their investment here? Tareq, I'll have you lead us off here.
Yeah, so I think, you know, Sam talked about this a little bit, but I think technology is going to have a huge role. I mean, one is, you know, there's obviously AI that's come in the last couple of years. We've talked about the importance of donor segmentation and understanding your audience. And there are a whole host of tools that can do this. Before I kind of go into that piece is like, you know, I think first is it's overwhelming. So I would start with just finding where is like the most pain at your organization, like operationally, right? And focusing on there, and then running a bunch of like little experiments, right? Like whether that's even just getting a ChatGPT or Claude account and seeing if it can help like automate memos or proposal writing, etc. Right? And then if that does, then figure out how to automate that process fully, and then go to the next thing. But you don't have to like solve every single problem immediately. And then next is, I think that there's a bunch of new tools, including ours out there, that are really trying to solve this analytics and audience understanding problem, right? Because it is going to be so critical to know, especially if you have multiple program issues, of like, which audience should I be talking about this issue with? Which audience should I be talking about that issue with? Which platforms work for our audience, and how do they perform, and what are the best formats? And really being able to adopt technology that's now out there to do that, I think could be really valuable.
Yeah, I like that approach of that narrow focus on solve one problem here and then move to the next instead of trying to solve them all. Ben, over to you. You know, what role will technology play in fundraising success in 2026, and where should nonprofits prioritize their investment?
Well, I love the idea of segmenting. I mean, I feel like the donor golfer is, you know, sometimes looked over a little bit just because they're not your typical donor, and they do have special requirements to engage and for asks. Obviously, it's mobile. I mean, everything's mobile. So I feel like anytime you have a mobile solution during a golf event for your fundraiser, I mean, that's going to be the difference between, you know, because I feel like sometimes with golf tournaments, you know, they're trying to like build on the fundraising. And I think if you have a solid mobile strategy, how you're going to have those touch points, when are we going to ask, how many times are we going to ask, even down to like silent and live auction platforms. That's where I feel like if you can have a solid strategy going into your event, and you know what those touch points are, which technology platform you're going to use, you can have some big wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, over to you to finish us off on how technology will help fundraisers, you know, find success in 2026.
Well, I would agree with what Ben just ended on, the point that having the right software is going to be a critical element. I think that if you have a gala event with an auction, that's different than a golf event. If you are looking to manage your golf teams in your gala software, you're using the wrong tool. If you're trying to manage your online auction in your CRM, you're using the wrong tool, right? Like having the right tools. I think it's really important that you think about your CRM being something that is user friendly, that your audience or that your team uses, that they actually enter information into, and that centers relationships. I love Bloomerang. I love Donor Doc. Those are both two CRMs that are very like relationship focused and focusing on how you connect to your people. You want a event tool that is for the event you are having. So if you are having a golf tournament, you need GolfStatus. You need to have something that does all of the things to track your sponsors, your teams, all of the elements correctly. And then to Tareq's point, the AI edition of Claude and Canva have made messaging, communicating, task management, graphics, professional, easier to manage. But I would also add sort of two things I'm really excited about. Practivated is an AI tool that actually gives you the resource of rehearsing your ask, practicing your ask before you reach out to a sponsor, before you reach out to an attendee or a donor. And so I think it's a tool to help you as a fundraiser. And the other thing that I'm really excited about is the addition of DAF Pay, the new payment type that similar to Apple Pay and software applications. Now there is the addition of DAF Pay, which allows donors with high wealth or donors with investment accounts for giving to be able to access that as a payment type, which that is rolling out into a lot of applications and softwares. And I think it's going to change what is possible for connecting to high wealth donors. And when they're able to use their DAF, their donation more than doubles. So being able to know that that's an access point, I think is an exciting thing coming specifically in 2026.
That's awesome. It sounds like very interesting tool. What was the name of the first one you mentioned?
Practivated. It is. Yeah, it is an AI fundraising coach. It's very cool.
Yeah, awesome. Sam, I'll stick with you for our next question. If you could recommend only one strategy to help position nonprofits to thrive in 2026, what would it be?
Always ask at your events. I think that so often we gather people, we connect people, we build this sense of belonging, and we tell our stories, and then we don't ask. We think of it as a fundraiser, or we think it stops at golf. And yet there is a lot of research that's been coming out about the brain needs that opportunity to be invited to participate in some way in the solution that your nonprofit offers. So when you ask, it actually creates relief for your attendees, and it creates an invitation in. So that's the piece I would say, always, 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 always.
I love that. It's so simple. Tareq, over to you. If you could recommend only one strategy to help position nonprofits to thrive in 2026, what would it be?
Totally. So I think when it comes to your CRM and individual giving, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So what do I mean by that is, I think when you're trying to set that stuff up, we all get over ambitious, and then we have all these fields that never get filled out, and we don't know what to do with the people on that list, and we go back to Google Sheets or Excel. So if there's two fields that you need, it is what is the next thing I'm doing with this person, and when do I need to do it? And if you just do that, you're going to actually be in amazing shape. And then along with that is be very aggressive about moving people out of your funnel into a nurture funnel if they're not going to give. And that will help you focus on the most important people that you should be trying to ask money from. If you have too many people in that list, and a lot of them are like what I call zombies, you're going to end up not knowing how to allocate your resources and time with these people.
Yes. Great. Another very, very simple but very meaningful recommendation. I love that. Ben, over to you to wrap up this question. Do you recommend only one strategy to help position nonprofits to thrive in 2026? What would it be?
Oh, man. I mean, I've harped on this a lot. It's the goal. I mean, if the golfers, and I'm talking golf specific, if golfers do not understand the goal of this tournament, other than, hey, we want to raise a lot of money. I mean, if they don't hear a number, like we want to raise 50 grand, 100 grand, 250, whatever the goal is, I'm shocked how many times you go to a tournament, you're like, well, what's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish? And if they knew it was a big number, then their eyes would, like, golfers are very goal oriented by nature. And so whether they're successful in business, whether golf is an ambition for them to get better, they're always thinking about the goal. So to not have the goal announced at your event always blows my mind. And that's tricky in the old days where you would be guessing what your total was, your total fundraising at the end of the event. But with current tools, man, you can get really close to knowing what your fundraising is for the day and use that as a recognition piece, just like you would at a telethon. It's the end of the tournament. Here's the surfboard check. What did we do today? Confetti cannons. Go home happy, kiss your beloved family and, pet your dog and be happy with what you accomplished that day because you understood what the goal was and then how close did we get. And I can't harp on that enough. Golfers need to know what the goal is of your event.
Yeah, that's something I often find myself harping on too in these sessions, especially ones that are specifically about golf fundraising, is not only setting a fundraising goal, but weaving in that cost connection so people know exactly why they're there. That's so meaningful. It can help really drive you towards that fundraising goal as well. So to wrap up our discussion here, with so many fundraising options available, how should nonprofits think about building a balanced fundraising mix for 2026? 2026. Tareq, I'll go over to you.
I think there's, when you think about it, right, as like understanding there's institutional funding, foundations, there's government funding, there's individual donors, which breaks into small dollar donations, medium size or mid-level donations, large donations, and principal gifts. And then there's like sales and services, et cetera, which is its own thing. And then thinking about one is like, you're probably not doing all of those. So what are the 2 or 3 that are working right now? And is there a third that you want to focus on or try to explore, and then focus on that would be my recommendation.
Perfect. Ben, over to you. How should nonprofits think about building a balanced fundraising mix as we move into next year?
Yeah, I would say on the whole, everybody's really good at the party planning. They're good at putting the event together, trying to gather sponsors, whether it's end of year giving or whether it's volunteer driven, or in some cases like Make-A-Wish, where they push the event back on the sponsor and give them credit for all the fundraising, including any ancillary fundraising around that event. What I'm interested in a little bit is, if you do have your event and it does okay, what's your strategy above that? Are you using, Dormie Network Foundation, for example, as a major gift accelerator? Because we do have those high-end asks where we're looking for people to give $10,000, $20,000 and more in return for in-kind donations from us. So are you using the successful building block of your event, and then what's on top of that? How are you getting into the high net worth donors? If you're high net worth donor focused, well, then maybe you need something that's, the feed. What are you using as a funnel to bring in a wider circle of potential donors? So kind of like looking at it from both ends of the funnel, but I'm interested in those areas of exploration for nonprofits to have a wider scope, a little more ability to reach into the donor pool.
Absolutely. Sam, over to you to finish up. How should nonprofits think about building a balanced fundraising mix?
Well, I was going to keep it really simple, but Ben, you sparked something for me. So first, I think people need to gather more and communicate more. Like the need for attention, like the sort of challenge for getting in front of people in this attention economy is important. So I think not being held up by perfection, as Tareq said, but moving it forward and communicating as often as possible, telling your story, always asking when you've gathered people. But I would also say in that there is a lot of research coming out about matching gifts. And then you just said sort of like, how do you take it to the next level? Like, if folks really want to take it to the next level, when you gather people, motivate them for collective action and leverage matching gift challenges. that sense of like, we're going to do this together and we're all in this taps into that. You have to know the cause and the mission. You have to know the goal. And now there's this like other donor stepping in with a challenge that's going to double your money. And I think matching gift challenges are just like how you go from, you know, $100,000 event to $1 million event, is leveraging those big gifts to generate more giving at your event.
Yeah, and tapping into people's competitiveness as well to meet that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. It's a great point. We do have a. I am going to jump into a live question before we jump into our audience Q&A. We had a request from the chat that I wanted to have each of you answer really quickly. What CRM does your charity use? Sam, I'll have you answer first.
Bloomerang or Donor Doc are the two we use the most.
Perfect. Tareq?
So I'm going to give like, if your budget is under $30 million, it's very easy to get tempted by Salesforce because it's free. Do not use Salesforce because it is going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement it right and make it usable.
Amen.
So that's my one thing to say. I mean, as far as then there's a bunch. There's the ones that Sam mentioned. You can make HubSpot work if you're really trying to be cost conscious. There's GiveButter. There's a ton of really great CRMs out there, just depending on what your nonprofit does and how you're engaging with your donors.
Ben?
I've experimented with GiveButter a little bit. I do have experience with Salesforce. I will say that's true. That the tool wasn't built for nonprofits. But Pipedrive, good old Pipedrive, and it's very flexible. There's a lot of integrations that are important for us. So is it the perfect answer? None of the CRMs are, but so far so good. It's been useful and reliable.
Great. Appreciate your recommendations. And for all of you in the audience, please drop any recommendations that you have for CRMs that you're utilizing that work for you in the chat as well. Love that we got some really great recommendations there. So moving on real quick, and to get our presentation back up here, we're going to move into our next poll question. How likely are you to hold a golf tournament in the next 12 months? Maybe thinking about doing it, probably going to do it. You're definitely, or are you already in the process of planning one? It looks like we have a pretty good mix. Vast majority of you actually are already planning one. And almost all the rest of you are definitely going to plan on, with a few maybes and a few probablys. So hopefully you got some good insights. I again really want to thank our panelists for providing those valuable insights throughout that discussion. Hopefully all of you attending found it valuable as well. Before we get into our audience Q&A, I wanted to briefly touch on how GolfStatus can help. We are a golf technology company that really specializes in helping you with your golf fundraiser. We have built-in tools and automations that we estimate save around 30 to 40 hours of work per tournament. So if you are one of those leaner staffs out there that are operating with just a couple of people, this can really help you put on an effective golf tournament and help you save a lot of time. We specialize in really helping you attract more participants, making the event as easy to promote as possible with our custom event websites we can create for you that are also mobile friendly. Make it really easy for you to share the event, simple as sharing a link so you can get it in front of as many people as you possibly can. Really help you put on a more fun and professional event. The software really keeps you organized so you can focus on the overall tournament experience. We also have some fun things like mobile scoring, live leaderboards. We can provide some hole-in-one contests for you to drive some excitement, and also help you with auctions if that's something you are running in tandem with the golf tournament. And then at the end of the day, why we're here is to help you raise as much money as possible for your cause. We have some really cool exclusive sponsorships we provide through our platform, including our technology sponsorship, our hole-in-one contests, our pin flags. Our clients that take advantage of all of our exclusive add-ons, we see a lot of them raise $10,000 or even more that they didn't have in years past. So that is kind of what drives us. That's why we do what we do, is we want to help you raise as much money as you can. If you take advantage of those exclusive sponsorships through us, you can do just that. And we also have some really great fundraising specialists on staff with us. So when you come on board as a client with us, you have access to them. These specialists work with all of our events we work with, the thousands of tournaments we work with. So they have seen what works well at golf tournaments, what doesn't work well. They can bounce ideas back and forth with you to kind of brainstorm some new strategies or tactics you haven't used before. They're really there to help you through this and make sure that you are maximizing your fundraising potential at your golf tournament. And that really leads me nicely into the industry leading support that we provide. Not only do you work with our fundraising specialists, but you get a client success specialist assigned to you specifically when you work with us. They will be at your constant beck and call, working with you from start to finish to make sure everything goes off smoothly. And like I said, these folks work with thousands of golf tournaments every single year. So there's likely not a question that you can ask them that they won't know the answer to, or at the very least, they'll be able to point you in the right direction to make sure you have everything that you need to put on a very successful golf tournament. And then for anyone who is just looking for more tips or best practices, lessons learned, we have our Golf for Good blog that our marketing team updates constantly with all of those things, as well as our online resource library full of free to download resources, including case studies, white papers, how-to guides, templates. Again, all of this is free to download. So no matter where you are in your golf tournament planning journey, if you're one of those folks answering our polls who are maybe just thinking about planning a golf tournament, or if you are already in the midst of planning one right now, there's likely something in there that can help you along the way, or answer any questions maybe you have, or maybe just spark some creativity, or maybe an idea that you can apply to your next golf tournament. And the last thing I'll end on before I throw it back over to Peyton for our audience Q&A is there is no upfront cost to use GolfStatus, no matter whether you are a large corporate event or a very small local memorial outing. We don't charge anything up front to get started. There are ways that we can earn money as a company, but that is only if your event is earning money. So we are really staking our success on your event success. And our pricing is really based on the idea that we only win if you do. So with that, I'll throw it back over to Peyton to get into our Q&A session.
Yes, and before we jump into that, I would love to drop the link to the webinar evaluation. If you guys could fill that out, our team would really appreciate that, as that helps us improve these webinars for you all. I'm also going to drop the presentation link for anyone who wants that as well. And if you haven't already, go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. On the in the bottom bar is the chat. And then just a reminder, if you are a CFRE, today's webinar is applicable for 1 point in category 1B for certification or recertification. All right, let's get into our Q&A. All right, first question is, how can AI be utilized in specific cases for the advancement of fundraising strategies? Tareq, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's really, like, the way I think about this is when you're fundraising, there's like kind of a loop, right? There's creating messaging, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's like your marketing or even promotion for an event, whatever it is. There's actually measuring how that stuff performs. There's like drawing insights from how that stuff performs and then updating that to hopefully perform better. Right? There's this continuous loop, and that's what you're trying to do. So AI can slot in any of these different pieces, right? So on the content creation piece, folks are already doing this, and the AI has gotten really good now, like compared to a year ago where you could tell stuff was AI. Now that the AI can write as good or better than like a lot of marketers, which is not a bad thing, right, per se. But so that's one place, right? But what's going to make that even better is if you understand what actually drives performance, right? So here's where before you'd have to hire a data scientist for your list and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to understand, right, what is the customer lifetime value of these different people, where they're coming in from, what is this 100,000 people like, what are these 50,000 people like? Well, AI can now be your data scientist to help you automatically segment your audience and understand what resonates with them. And then once you have those insights that you're extracting, you can then feed that back into your content creation loop to actually not just write good quality content, but actually high performing content based on the data itself. The other thing AI can do, right, is it can help you monitor what's happening in the world, right? Whether that's the news, YouTube, social media, and then go and bring you relevant stuff that you can then use as hooks. Because we all know, right, it's like, yes, messaging points are critical, but when you insert them with that fresh information, whether that's like news, events, other people promoting the same issue or area, et cetera, it can perform much better because it's fresher. So that's kind of like at a very, in 1 minute, how I would describe how AI can help support that work.
Peyton, you're on mute.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna struggle bus today. I said AI is definitely much better. It writes much better content when it's better informed, is what I was trying to say. All right, throwing it over to you, Sam. What do you have to add there?
Well, I immediately start to think about like the tools and how I adapt those tools to the process. So, Tareq, I'm actually interested in diving more into Chorus and understanding more of what Chorus does. But I think I'm always concerned about ethical practices and making sure that we're being responsible and using our data ethically and not like feeding the machine inappropriately in a way that we're like giving our donor information away. So I tend to lean into task abbreviation. So AI to be able to help you with writing content, creating content. Tareq mentioned Claude. I recommend Claude as well because I think that it is a tool that has some human-centered design built into it that is to create some ethical boundaries built into it. And understanding in your planning process how outside external factors should be built in. Like Tareq said, like what is the news? You can really lean into AI to say in our planning process for next year, in our budgeting process for next year, what are some of the shortfalls or gaps that we should anticipate? How is the tax change going to impact us? Like utilize the analysis of AI to help you with that. And then I think also improving our messaging and outcomes when it comes to marketing. I'm a big fan of looking at AI to help us do evaluation, to help us to understand and see patterns and behaviors of how people engage with our content. I think a lot of organizations spend a lot of time putting content out, especially like social media, but social media channels aren't like showing that content to your entire audience. And so how do you use your marketing budget and your spend in messaging to increase awareness, increase visibility, and ultimately move people to connect to your organization?
Most definitely. Yeah, that point about you putting so much out there and it not pushing it is very frustrating. How about you, Ben? Anything to add there?
Well, I'm a big fan of visuals. So if you're building something like a tournament logo, you know, if you need to create the visuals, you can do that now. And what does this tournament look like, or what does the fundraising component look like? Or if you're trying to engage sponsors, what does their component look like? So I feel like the new AI tools are kind of sneaky good at all the sort of missing pieces that you might want or need for a deck, a sales deck, or trying to help them envision where you want to take this event or where their sponsorship lies. So I feel like if you're not using it for the visual side, you know, not shame on you, but hurry up and learn and start testing it because there is a learning curve. And then I love it from the draft. Like it's such a quick way to draft something. And writing an important email, A/B testing ideas, just having a really smart person to bounce stuff off. Because sometimes in nonprofit, you are the captain of your own ship, and you don't have a lot of time to ping everybody in your organization or in your reach to get feedback. So I feel like it's an important feedback tool, and I mean that's just one facet of using AI. But I think it's the future for sure.
Definitely. I'm planning a golf tournament right now and I'm using AI to make our tournament logo. So that's one example right there.
Nice.
All right. This is a live question. Sam, you mentioned short story-based events to convey what the organization is trying to accomplish. What kinds of events do you see being used for this purpose?
Every event should have a story element to it. And I think our time and attention has been reducing. Like a lot of studies are showing that like our attention spans are getting less. And so in that, I always recommend that you have a focused program that you help educate people and inform people through your stories of your organization, but you do it in a way that utilizes people's time well. If you sit them down pre-golf tournament for a 5-hour gala with 4.5 hours of speakers on your stage, you are going to bore them to death and they are going to probably not show up the next day. But if you have a short 30 to 45-minute program that is rich in story, connects people to your why and your impact, that can be really powerful. Even a 3-minute story can be really a powerful way to connect, but story needs to be integrated into every single event. And I think that we just need to think about the fact that the way we used to do things has changed, and we need to be getting our audience focused, attentive, and then utilizing their time well in impactful stories and short form.
100%. That cause connection, drawing that link to what they're donating their money for is everything. All right, but quickly before our next question, I just dropped a link to join our Golfing for Good nonprofit golf fundraisers group on LinkedIn, where you can engage with other tournament organizers, ask questions, and share real-world ideas, experiences, and best practices for raising money through golf. So go ahead and give that a join, folks. All right, our next question is also a live one. Even if your event is not profitable, is it still worth it for the sense of connection / cultivation face-to-face? Ben, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, if it's a loss leader, it just depends what you're doing with that information. There's really not a loss if you're playing the long game. If you're getting beat up over ROI and the cost of the event, or we're not seeing direct donations from the event itself, you're going to have to build a case a little bit to show how it's creating sustainable relationships and lifetime donors out of the event. If this is a really swanky event and you're drawing in the people that you want, the decision makers in your community, I think you got to stay with the course. But I'll try not to suck all the air out of the room. I'm interested in Tareq and Sam's answer, and Logan too. Logan's always good.
Yeah, Tareq, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what Ben said. I think I don't want to condescend. I'm sure most people know these terms, but your best friends are going to be, CLV or LTV. You can kind of use those interchangeably, and that stands for customer lifetime value or lifetime value. And so the way you want to think about this, I think somebody even mentioned in one of the live questions, they basically break even. That's actually incredible when you think about it, when you break even, because now you have all these engaged people and you're going to communicate with them. They're going to come to more golf tournaments. You're going to be emailing them. You're going to be texting them, and they're going to give money because you did a great job and they care about your mission, right? So being able to make sure you have the systems, talking about CRM, to track that, and then understand what this person is worth in 1 year, 3 year, or 5 years, are generally the increments you want to be looking at this. And then all of a sudden you might see that golf tournament probably actually had a 3x or 5x or 10x return. I mean, another way to think about this is if you're doing ads on Meta, right, which is something we all do, or a lot of us do, is usually you're not making any money. You're paying $1 to acquire an email or phone number, and then you're messaging them for a year, and then they finally donate $5, right? And then you break even. If you're breaking even at the golf tournament, that's incredible, because now everything you raise from there is gravy in a way. So that's how I would think about that.
I would also say that if you're not raising money, my question is, are you asking? Because I think that is the biggest gap that we see. 67% of individuals that give or show up to events say that they didn't give again, or they didn't make a donation at the event because they weren't asked. And so I think that that's an important element that we miss a lot. We think it's important to have a fundraiser, but we miss that we're not inviting people in. And that is definitely how you say, yes, we want your support, and this is how to participate. I think that that's an evaluation tool to be. If you're not breaking even, I think the evaluation tool is, are we asking, and how are we asking?
I think Logan, feel free to chime in here too. I think that what we see this a lot. People just they don't put enough value behind their registrations and stuff, and they're not putting enough value behind their sponsorships. They're not upcharging enough. It's worth way more than what they're charging for it. You have anything to add there?
Don't listen to the golfers. If they want it cheaper, don't listen to them. Then
right. I mean, you're more than likely offering way more than what you're charging for, if that makes sense. The sponsor, at least. Logan, do you have anything to add there?
No, I just love how Tareq framed it.
Yeah.
Most of the time you think about you're paying for this information most of the time. So if you're breaking even and you're getting their information, and in the case of a golf tournament, you're actually speaking with them face to face and building a relationship, you're ahead of the game. So I love how he framed it.
100%. And then I also dropped a link to join us for next month's webinar. We're going to talk about digital strategies to maximize your golf fundraiser with Kimberly Bottom from Feather. So go ahead and join us for that. I'm going to go ahead and do one final question. I know we're a little bit over, but I will end on this one, I promise. What are some trends you're seeing in live versus online events? Samantha, do you want to start us off here?
Sure. I think that, gosh, there's a conversation that's happening in the chat right now that I want to pull forward to answer
Oh,
this,
I'm
which
sorry.
is which is the format of it. And I think that in the live event format, the idea of maximizing people's time is the trend. And there's this conversation that Brent started about, we're not doing the dinner the night before, we're doing a lunch, it's 30 minutes, we give them a brown bag. Yes, that's the direction to go, because we already have them there. Take that moment to focus them on a short element that says, this is the work we're doing, this is why this work matters, and this is how you can be a part of it, period. Short. It could be the breakfast before, the lunch, the dinner after, right after, as they come off the course. But timing is the most important thing. And in the virtual space, which we still see a lot of people participating in the virtual space, there has to be a way in the virtual space for people to be invited to participate and give. So if you're doing a lot of education in that space, if you're hosting events in that space, it can't just be a screen talking at them. There has to be an invitation in, and there are so many tools now to be able to donate and see your name pop up on a screen. So I think it is like maximizing the attention you have. So if you got them to log in, make that ask and recognize them in the moment. If you got them to the golf tournament, make that ask at the event in that short little window where you're feeding them. Like, we have to be thinking about their time and how much they're willing to invest in your event.
100%. Tareq, do you want to weigh in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything Sam said resonated. I would also just add, like, I think we call them both events, but I would actually put live events much more in like a digital strategy, like a webinar or YouTube video cast, right? Where the value proposition really is about giving the audience like knowledge or entertainment, and it has to be tight. Whereas an in-person event, kind of like, especially a golf tournament, right? Why do people play golf? It's all about community and fellowship, and they just have very different, of course, like, you know, fundraising can be part of either one, but the actual like goal and the reason why somebody gives are going to be very different for those reasons.
Okay, Ben, round us out.
Well, you know, during COVID, we experimented a little bit with virtual golf tournaments, and one of the cool executions that we saw were advocates for the nonprofit that, you know, have some celebrity status, and they did matches using some platforms. Some, you know, they played 1v1 matches online, and then they encouraged their followers to watch and to give during the event. So it was kind of like an informal telethon, but being hosted on Twitch, and that was cool. That was some really cool ways of engaging a Michelle Lee, who's not going to get on a plane during that time. She wasn't going to get on a plane and fly somewhere to do her normal clinic and be, you know, shake hands, kiss babies, but she did play online with another celebrity. So those kind of activations are cool, and I think they're worth exploring, especially in an age where time is really important.
100%. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get everybody's. Oh, Logan beat me to it. Man. All right. Thank you, everyone, again, for your questions. Please take a minute to complete the webinar evaluation, but that will also be in the email with the recording, which will be shared out later today. Also, please feel free to reach out to Tareq, Sam, or Ben, or Logan with any questions that did not get answered today. Their emails are listed on the current slide And we really appreciate you all taking the time to join us. Thank you all to all of our panelists for joining us as well. And we hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Peyton.
Bye.